Hey film nuts, how's it going? Back with another video, movie review. Today I'm going to be doing Avengers Infinity War. Now this video might be a little bit long, might have to edit it down and stuff like that, but here we go. Um, like I said from my previous reviews and movies that I did from the Avengers, from the first one, Age of Ultron, I'm going to be doing, through the saga, or 1, 2, 3, 4, if you will. After this would be Avengers Endgame. Today, like I said, it's Avengers Infinity War, and right off the bat, it's just a must-have. Thanos. Thanos. I mean, he's showing, like right off the bat, you see him coming up, from I think it was yeah, it was Thor Ragnarok. Right at the end of Thor Ragnarok, everyone is trying to save the Asgardians and whatnot. And I kind of have to put a nitpick in that because I don't really like that kind of like storytelling. Where in the previous movie, Thor Ragnarok, it was all about saving the Asgardians, and then in the next movie, the next continuity of the continuous story, they all die. To me, that's a nitpick. I really don't like that, but it's just just the way that they went with it and everything, and it was cool. It was cool. At the Thor Ragnarok, it was it's Asgard. It's not a place, it's a people, but most of the majority of those Asgardians died off. In the beginning of like the first 15, 20 seconds of the movie, you see Thanos wrecking the ship, just wrecking shop, you know what I mean? Just tearing things up. So right off the bat, I have to come out with with Thanos and say that he's a competent villain. And I'll get into it from my nitpicks and everything of why I don't think that he's one of the best villains that we've seen on screen from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because his storyline and everything and what his plan was. I'll get into it. Like I said, Thor and Asgard, Thor, and you see Loki there, from the wreckage ship and everything. All the Asgards, are wiped out, like I said, and the only two remaining, as we know, on screen, is Thor and Loki. And Thor, I don't know if he had a previous fight with Thanos, but you see Thor just, on the ground, just down and dirty, and he's Thanos is monologuing, giving explanation, expedition and everything, saying, the whole reason why, you came to your demise, it's already here, or it's me, stuff like that. Um, and Thor, just Thor being Thor, I really didn't like part two, Thor: The Dark World, because it kind of made it a little bit more of that that experience how do you say it, like it was like more of the beginning of times, you know what I mean, just that dialogue that him and Loki were having, especially from the first Avengers leading up all the way up until here. Loki's always been, that kid, or that man child, if you will. He's like, he always has like a big, a toy, but when he puts it down, someone else plays with it, and he's all mad, and like Juliet, you know what I mean, just doesn't really come together. But here it did. Loki's, and I'm gonna say it just right off the bat, Loki's death, but leading into it, it was kind of like one of those things where I'm like, wow, like they really, they really killed him off. It's like he was like one of those essential characters that like played a big pivotal role in the previous films, that you're like, wow, he's a, like I said, with Thanos, he's a very competent, kind of villain. We knew his plan, we knew what he wanted to do. And he comes out with some Loki stuff, God of Mischief, always playing tricks and whatnot. And he played a trick that didn't work out to his advantage that well, and it kind of, led to his demise of Thanos killing him. And again, I should have put this at the beginning of the video. Spoilers if you, haven't seen the movie. Sorry for that. Loki's death was one of those things where I'm like, I put up my hands. I'm like, you really did that. You know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, I feel like it wasn't a very good, or I'm sorry. I feel like it wasn't like his final demise. And we'll get into that later, after we do, after I review WandaVision and whatnot. But I'm just gonna say it here. I don't think that Loki's dead. It's just my fan theory. I'm just going off of a theory. I'm not going off, just from what the movie was telling us or what the movie showed us. There was a lot of show and tell, and there was a lot of show but don't tell, in this movie, and it played out good, it played out good. But for my fan theory, I don't think that Loki that Thanos killed was actually the real Loki. I think it was like his astro, body form, or whatever that, Loki does. I forgot the correct term of it. He makes, copies of himself and whatnot, and he made it look like he was, being killed, by Thanos. But that's just my fan theory. That's just my fan theory. His henchmen, I can't remember all their names, but Lucius Claw and stuff like that. They were good. They're not villains. I mean, they are, but they aren't. Like, and then that's why I put in my notes. They're just henchmen. They're these disposable things where they're one of his henchmen is with, Doc Strange, Tony Stark, and Spider-Man, and he just like, it wasn't like a quick death or anything like that. He just died off screen, like pretty fast, and it was well deserving, and then, in the sense of, just having him trying to get this stone from Doc Strange and saying, hey, I've served this guy plenty of years and plenty of times, and I've always come out, on top. And it could just felt like you can really see like him being like, if man, if I don't kill you, and if we don't reach our destination to where we have to go without the stone, he's gonna kill me. So like, I got to get this shit off of you. So you kind of see him like being taken back a little bit and saying, give me the stone, give me the stone. If not, he is going to kill me. um, uh, I'm gonna get into kind of oh, I'm sorry. And like the other henchmen, that played, good pivotal roles, like I keep saying, from these villains, they were just on a big giant quest to get the stones for Thanos. That's just basically, the gist of it, and, basically of what their roles were and what they were trying to do. Nothing really concrete, because even in the comics, they weren't like, they didn't like, they served him, but they were like a little bit more of like brothers and sisters to Thanos. You know what I mean? They're like, and that's the one thing that I'll get into here in a few is like, yeah, I'm not looking for panel, from the comics to the movies, because if you just want to do that, then, just read a comic. Some of the, like I said, some of the times when you do have a certain type of situation in the comics, it's not going to always play out good in the movies, and I get it, I really, really do. But I really wish they would have fleshed out his henchmen just a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because like I said, in the comics, they're kind of like brothers and sisters to him. You know what I mean? They did serve him. They did, do his, some of his dirty work and stuff like that. But they were fleshed out a little bit more than what they were in the movie. So I kind of feel like that was kind of like, not really a slap in the face, but just saying, hey, we need to get this runtime going. Can't spend too much time on, on these characters, which I get it. I really, really do. Thanos, and his plan. Now here's where, and honestly, some people are going to be a little upset after I say this, but his plan just didn't. It made sense for the movie aspect of it, and why he wanted to do what he wanted to do. I get it. He wanted to create, genocide. He wanted to kill trillions to make a balance in the universe. But why? There was a brief moment where he's talking to Doc Strange on Titan, his home planet, and he shapes reality. He had the reality stone. He shapes reality into what it was for him when he grew up and everything. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, that is happening here, but it's not always going to happen on another planet, or that's not always going to happen everywhere else. So that's why I understood his motivation. I understood why he wanted to do what he wanted to do, but at the same time, it just really didn't make sense. And like I said, we're going, to the comic stuff. In the comics, it was Lady Death. Lady Death came up to him, came up to Thanos and was like, "Hey, I got a job for you." And they had a romantic type of thing going on in the comics where he was like, yeah, we need to be together, you know what I mean? I'm all powerful, you're powerful, let's be together. But Lady Death was like, "No, you got to do a job for me. You got to prove your love. You got to prove that you actually want to be with me, because she's like, I'm eternal. You can die any time, any day, any minute, any second. So if you do, my deed for me, maybe possibly, we can live forever." So in the comics, it's the Infinity Gauntlet, and one of my beloved comics that I've read, and it was a good read. It was a very good read. It's like one of those type of things where you're just like, so many characters are popping in and out, in and out, in and out, just like how the movie played out, where you have a different group of characters like Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor, from one chapter to the other chapter to the other chapter, and it played out good, in the movie. But going back to the comics, they kind of, just, it was like all these different characters came up and everything, and at the beginning of the comic, Thanos already had snapped his finger. A spoiler, Thanos already had snapped his finger, and it was like one of those things where you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? So they kind of had the Avengers, the X-Men, Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock played a big role in that comic, and they kind of had to go back, mess with time, mess with different dimensions and stuff like that. So it really was a really fleshed out type of thing, and then that's when the Lady Death, as I was explaining, sorry, she came up and was like, "Hey, let's get married," and that's where you get baby Thanos and stuff like that. They had a couple kids and whatnot. Comics are weird. Comics are weird. Don't ask me. But for the movie and Thanos, like I said, I understood what he wanted to do, and I understood what he was trying to do, but it just really didn't make sense of why he wanted to kill trillions just because of what he saw in his past. The movie didn't really flesh out why he actually wanted to kill half of the universe. And he, like I said, it was a brief backstory, but it was a brief backstory of what he went through. And like I said, it's sometimes that's not always going to happen. Sometimes, I'm just going to get, really scientific here. I believe there's other multiverses, other universes besides ours. So if that happens in our universe, that's not always going to happen in that universe. You know what I mean? So it kind of didn't play out the way that I think that they were trying to do it for the movie term, and for the script writers and everything. I think they were just trying to just get through time. They were just like, we got to flesh this out as much as possible, but if not, then we just got to work with what we have. And I get it, I really, really do. But that was one of my biggest nitpicks about the movie. It's like, it's just one of those things where it's just like why, like with any movie villain, why do you want to destroy the world? Why do you want to destroy the universe? It's like, kind of like, want to sit him down, just like, why do you want to do, like, you want to ask him, why do you want to do this? But at the same time, he'll come back at you and be like, I don't know why I want to. I just want to, and it's like, but why? Like, why do you want to do this? Anyways, that was just one of my big nitpicks about it. Um, the backstory of the Infinity Stones, and they really, really played it really well in the movie. I'm not going to go into the comics or anything like that because it actually was from the comics. It was from the Big Bang, sent these, elemental crystals out into the universe, spreading them out, throughout the universe, time, space, soul, mind, and power. And these Infinity Stones were just a lot of people were trying to get their hands on them. Not even just Thanos. There was sometimes in the comics there was sometimes that even Thor wanted to get the Power Stone to to create a different kind of like create a different Asgard through his portal and stuff like that. And there were some other like Avengers like I want to say I think it was Silver Surfer part of the Fantastic Four, part of the X-Men. He wanted to get it for, just all unique power for himself. So they played it out and wrote it really, really well in the movie. In my opinion, it was. It's like one of those things where it really was from panel to panel, from the comics. So I really dig that. I really, really did. The New York scene with Spider-Man getting together with the band, that was I have to admit, Tom Holland has really really gave a lot into this role, and it's not just putting on the CG effects or anything like that. You can tell that he's really enjoying playing this role, and I really enjoy watching him play this role. The way that they get together and everything, trying to stop Thanos' henchmen from getting the Time Stone in New York. That battle scene, that was pretty fun. It wasn't epic or anything like that, but it was pretty fun to watch. It was pretty fun, and the back and forth that Tony Stark and Doctor Strange had. I remember there was a couple of reviews when Doc Strange came out with his movie. They're like, "Oh, it's just another Tony Stark, ego, statistical type of guy," and it's like, no, when they were going back and forth, they fleshed it out really well and said no. He has ego, but they're very, very different. They're very different. And I really enjoyed that back and forth that they were going, just nitpicking at each other and just saying, I don't know how you fit that head in that, in that tiny helmet, stuff like that. And I just saved your magical ass, and stuff like that. It was one of those things where I'm like, okay, I kind of golf clapped, you know what I mean? I'm like, that was something unique, you know what I mean? We haven't really seen big headed ego type of guys go head to head and say, oh, they're the same. No, they're not. They are not. One has an agenda and one has another agenda. That at the end, they come out, and say, okay, we got to come together, put our differences aside, and let's make this work. So I really enjoy that. And then, like I said, they had like different groups in the movie. The way that if you were to like read a comic book, it was like that. One group it was the Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor and coming together, to having Iron Man, Spider Man, Drax, and all that Mantis, Nebula, and whatnot. It was really cool to see that camaraderie come together. We never really saw that in from I think it was like maybe like the first Avengers where it actually did come together, but they were on the same grounded type of level. Now we're getting into like the jokey type of funny characters like Star Lord, right off the bat, just going head to head with Thor going head to head with him. One of the best dialogues that I've seen, in a while, and getting that feedback of saying, we got these funny characters, but they have, like I said, it's like Tony and Iron Man, or Tony and Doctor Strange. They have different agendas, but at the end of the day, they come together, work together, and flush it out. Cap and Black Panther, my gosh, I'm like when I watched it the very first time, it was like it was very humble. It was very humble because after a Civil War, they were at battle, complete, just going head to head, hey, stop, no, I'm not going to stop. One of them, just trying to be, macho man, but in this movie, it just seemed like they were on a connection. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. They didn't really like give dialogue or say any lines to each other, but they would just look at each other and just know, okay, we need to get this done. One in particular scene, cat or I'm sorry, Black Panther is talking to his sister Shuri, I believe that's her name. And he's over there saying, "Hey, we gotta open up this gate," and she was like, "What? Open up the gate? What? We got all these monsters coming at us." And then in the camera, you can see Cap just looking at Black Panther and be like, "Yeah, yeah, just open it up. We got this." And they look back at each other, and Cap nods his head. Black Panther does his thing, and it's like, wow, it's like that. They didn't say anything to each other, but they knew what they had to get done, and that job, was to save Vision from Thanos getting the Mind Stone. I really enjoyed that. Like I said, it was one of those things where I golf clap. I was like, wow, wow. You didn't have them give any lines, any dialogue, exposition of why they needed to get the job done. They just knew. They locked eyes and were like, no, like we're not messing around. You know what I mean? We're not joking around. We're not trying to be all these other characters. They knew what they needed to do, and they got it done. So I really enjoyed that. I really really did. Vision, man, there was some continuity errors in there for me, and maybe it was just a couple of my nitpicks. Watching it, time and time, again and again and again. There were several times that he could have utilized his powers a little bit better into making sure that Thanos' henchman didn't try to get the stone, and where he got hurt and everything, got a cut wound in his chest and whatnot. There's really not much to say, but Paul Bettany, I mean, he's good. He's good as the Vision. I'll get into that a little bit later once I do my WandaVision review. I have a lot to say about that. Um, but like I said, he was good. He was good for what he had to do and everything. I'm not gonna say I wish he could have done this, or, but there were some things that he could have done to try and prevent from that happening. Not trying to get killed, or not trying to get wounded or anything like that. Just a couple of continuity errors that I've seen and stuff like that. Thor getting his axe, I gotta say, was kind of like, it was like I was like scratching my head a little bit. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, like I get it, but after he got his axe and everything, they kind of took a little bit more time than I really was expecting or wanting for that to happen. Like, again, they had to flesh it out. I get it. But they spent pretty much a lot of time just giving explanations of why they needed to get this axe, or this, and Thor thought he was gonna get a hammer and stuff like that. Peter Dinklage, I believe that's his name. He's, and I'm not making fun of him or anything, but he plays a giant dwarf, and in real life he's actually a dwarf. You know what I mean? And he's a phenomenal actor. Phenomenal actor. He's played in so many other things. He played in one of the X-Men movies. I think it was First Class or Days of Futures Past or something like that. And I heard that he was really, really good on Game of Thrones and on the other shows that he does and whatnot. But for the irony and for the ironic type thing, he plays a giant dwarf in Infinity War, which really played out really well. He tells Thor and Groot and Rocket Raccoon, what he was doing for Thanos. He built him the gauntlet and everything, and he kind of killed off all the other of his species, all the other dwarfs, if you will. The giant dwarfs, killed them all off. You know what I mean? And he was the only one that was there, to help out Thor and stuff like that. So Thor gets his axe. Cool. It was a very good visual scene and whatnot. But here's what I have to get into my nitpick again. There's a lot of nitpicks in this movie. This is where I have to get into my biggest nitpick in the movie is Thor going to Wakanda. How did he know to go to Wakanda? How? Like Tony wasn't there. Obviously Cap was, but it's not like, that he radioed anybody. He was like, hey, where you guys at? You know what I mean? It wasn't like Peter Dinklage's character said that, I know this magical, mystical place, on Earth that's holding a stone. You got to get there before he does, and it's like how did Thor know how to get there? You know what I mean? And where to go? I know it was the Bifrost, and I knew that it can summon the Bifrost and stuff like that. But my question is, how did Thor actually know how to get to Wakanda? Where to go? Where to be at the right time? It's just one of my nitpicks. Whatever. So basically, the band meets in Wakanda. Thor gets there. You got Mark Ruffalo not really being the Hulk, and I'll get into that. Not really being the Hulk, but he's in the Hulkbuster. You got Cap, Black Widow, Black Panther, Falcon, War Machine. You got pretty much like all the band in Wakanda, and they have this big climactic battle that I really enjoyed. Some of the trailers from the TV spots and everything when this movie came out, they kind of like flip flopped it a little bit, which I understand, marketing, I get it, but I wish they would have actually kept a little bit more there than what was given to us in the movie. But it was a good battle. It was a good battle. There was one scene where Cap and Thor, they have a little funny moment, whatnot, and it was like I said, it was a good battle. It was a good battle. And then we jump into, like I said, it was a lot of jumping and a lot of back and forth, but the Russo brothers knew how to space it out, how to space these characters out and to flush it out. So, you get that battle, but then you get another battle with another group of characters. And that's where you get the battle and the fight of Thanos and Doc Strange. Like, my gosh, like the VFX production on this was incredible. Was incredible. I heard that, and I read a little article that it literally took almost 2 months just to finish that one scene, because there was so much VFX, there was so much CGI going into it, there was so much digitalization that needed to go from that fight, from when Thanos and Doc are going head to head. Thanos brings out I think it's the Power Stone, brings out a portal, and Dark Strange blocks it with his powers of the mystic arts, and brings butterflies. Like, yeah, it was like one of those things where like, butterflies, really? You could have done something a little bit better than that. But like I said, it was good. Like, it was good. It was like one of those type of battles where you're how did you do that? You know what I mean? Like I said, I read a couple articles and reviews saying that it took them a long time to get that fight down. And so Thanos beats Doc, and gives some monologue and whatnot, and crushes the amulet that holds the Mind Stone, or I'm sorry, the Time Stone and everything. And so then you get into the battle of Thanos and Tony, and that right there, it was a cool battle. But what I really liked about it was their back and forth. It was their dialogue that they had with each other. there was a couple lines, a couple one liners, and they're not just cheap one liners. They were just like liners that I'm like, whoa, like that was deep. You know what I mean? Thanos was like, Stark, and he's like, how in the hell do you know me? He's like, yeah, you're not the only one cursed with knowledge, and Tony's like, my only curse is you. Blasts, blasting with his grenade guns or whatever, and drops, drops, a couple drops of blood, of Thanos, and Thanos like, all that just for a drop of blood, looks at his face, and he's like, shit, are you kidding me? I'm about to kill you. Like, you know what I mean? So they're going back and forth, very good battle. Tony, I really, really did think that he was going to die in the movie. Spoiler alert. I really did think that he was going to die in the movie, but didn't. But the line that Thanos delivered, Josh Brolin, he really put a lot into this villain, and that's where I kind of have to just tip my hat off and be like, okay, even though I have my nitpicks, even though I have my criticisms, you did a phenomenal job at this villain. He beats Tony, Iron Man, beats him to a pulp, stabs him in the chest, with his iron blade, and then, kind of like sits him down slowly, you know what I mean? Just kind of like looks at his head, and he's like, man, times are tough, you know what I mean? Once I'm done, half the universe will still exist. And he's like, but I hope they remember you. It was like man, like like I said at the beginning of the review, he's a very competent type of villain. He's not there to mess around. He's there to get business done, and that's exactly what he did. But when he delivered that line, it's like, I hope they remember you. You know what I mean? Because I'm about to kill you. Doc Strange is like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'll give you the stone. I'll give you the stone. And it was at, and I'm sorry, I forgot. Doc Strange, I think it was like, what, 14, 16 million different scenarios, different alternate scenarios that he looked at, and they only had one chance to beat him and to win. And that was one of those things, one of the good chances of them beating him, in the long run. Doc Strange knew that he had to die, or that he knew that Thanos needed to do what he needed to do in order for them to actually beat him in the long run. And that's where we get the name drop. Endgame. Gives him the stone, Thanos leaves, he, pops out. And he's like, and Tony looks at him, he's like, why'd you do that? He's like, I had to. There was no choice. There was no other way. We're in the end game now, and that's where we get the next title for Avengers Endgame. Get into that later. Thanos getting the last stone. Oh, I'm sorry. That battle and everything had a very big climactic type of thing that's gonna play out in my next part. Right here. Getting the last stone. Man, that was heartbreaking. That was really, really heartbreaking. Not only just because of what happened when he got the last stone and what he did, it was actually because Wanda and Vision, you can tell like these characters just didn't care about each other because the script told them to. You know what I mean? I think Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany like really genuinely just have really good feelings for each other and whatnot. Really good co-workers. But that scene of Thanos getting the last stone, it kind of like broke my heart. It didn't bring me to tears or anything like that, but it broke my heart. I'm like, wow, man, like that sucks. Wanda had to really like basically just destroy, just really destroy. She was going to destroy just the stone, but she ended up destroying Vision himself, just liberating him just into dust. Thanos is, is on his way to go get it, and keep in mind here he has, like, all the stones besides the soul. I mean, besides the Mind Stone, just one more, and he has the Time Stone. So gives some monologue, gives some dialogue, and is like, you'll never know how it feels. Now it's not the time to mourn, but now it's time to get shit done, and that's exactly what he did. He reverses time from that moment. You know what I mean, and brings Vision back to life, and then Wanda had to watch her loved one that she already had killed die twice. And I was like, wow, I was like, that sucks. You know what I mean? She already killed him. You know what I mean? And then had to rewatch him be relived just to die again. I was like, wow, you know what I mean? That really, like, it, like, my stomach just, like, fell to the ground. I was like, oh, like, whoa, like you did, like, there was some bold moves that they did in this movie where, again, I had a golf clap. I was like, wow, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think that they're actually gonna do it. I think that when my first viewing, I thought they were just gonna be like, ha ha, you didn't get the last stone, but I at that particular moment, I didn't think that he was gonna reverse time, kill him again, just to pick the stone out, out of his head. I was like, wow, that was bold. That was bold. So, like I said earlier in the review of his plan, I get it. I do. I get it. It's for the movie's sake why he wanted to kill half of the universe, but it really just really wasn't sticking with me. I'm gonna let it go. Whatever. Um, but he did exactly what he said that he was gonna do. He did exactly what he said that he was gonna do. He said that, I'm gonna, snap my fingers, and I'm gonna. He goes, and really, just I don't know if he did, but to me it felt like he really enjoyed doing that. Just done, over. But what he gave a little bit of a brief, you know, story to Doc Strange before they had their battle on Titan was like, and he was like, Doc Strange asked him, he's like, hey, so, what's gonna happen when you're done? What's your end game when you finish your mission? And Thanos is like, well, I'm gonna sit down, have a cold one, and just look into the sunset, with the universe that I know that it's that it in his opinion, that's gonna be salvated. That's gonna be at peace. And that's exactly what he did. I don't think, just my opinion, I don't think this movie should have been called The Avengers or Avengers Infinity War. I think this should have been Thanos Infinity War. Thanos, Josh Brolin, the actor that plays him, he was in pretty much every scene. I mean, there were a couple of scenes where he wasn't, but majority of this movie is just him. It's just him giving monologues and giving dialogues, and just saying all these deep lines. You're like, it really should have been just. I mean, because it is his movie, but the title of the movie should have just been Thanos' movie. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. But Josh Brolin, phenomenal actor. He's done incredible things before this and after this, actually. But the way that he interpreted and the way that he played Thanos, I was like wow. Like I said at the beginning, you really don't want to do panel to panel from the comic book, but when you read a Thanos type story in the comics, you're like, what does this voice sound like? You know what I mean? How does he present himself other than just looking at pictures that were drawn onto the board? No, Josh Brolin really actually brought a fourth dimension, a fifth dimension, a sixth dimension to this character. I was like wow, you know what I mean? Like at the beginning of my review, I said that he was a very competent type of villain. He knew what he wanted to do. He had to do what he had to do, to get all six or all five stones. And that's where we get into kind of like Thanos's like life story and backstory a little bit. I'm gonna give you a brief one. The Soul Stone. I think the planet is Vormir. I don't quote me on that. Um, but Gamora is his daughter. She knows where it is, and she's basically the only one. And he kind of like manipulates her to getting the information, out of her. I'm saying, hey, if you don't tell me where this is, I'm gonna kill your sister. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Tell me where this stone is. So they go to Vormir, and Red Skull played. Oh my gosh, that was a big cameo. I was not expecting, like, at all. We haven't seen Red Skull since the first Captain America, the first Avenger. I think it was the Tesseract. He held the Tesseract, and it sent him up in space. We didn't know where he went, and that was like what 8 years ago. You know what I mean? Like six to 8 years ago. Previous from this movie. Um, so that was a good cameo right there. I kind of clapped loud. When he came on screen, I was like, wow. They brought him back. Cool. Didn't really play a big role. He was just telling them what the soul, or what the stone needed, and what it entailed by, and what needed to be done, to get it. That scene, oh my gosh, man, it did, like I said, it didn't tear me up, but it broke my heart. It broke my heart. There was these back and forth liners of just of Gamora and Thanos, just going back and forth and saying, like, ha ha. Gamora saying, ha ha, you sacrificed everything that you wanted to sacrifice, and you can't get this one thing. Ha ha. But then, and kind of just like Thanos knew what he needed to do. And he kind of like Thanos looks back at her and has a tear, a couple tears, and she's like, what, tears? That doesn't mean shit. And Red Skull was like, they're not for him. You know what I mean? And she knew, at the beginning, they both knew. They both knew. He was like, Red Skull was like, those tears aren't for him. So, I would stop messing around with him, because he's about to mess you up. You know what I mean? And she was like, just telling him, everything that you wanted to sacrifice, everything that you wanted to kill, you can't get this one thing. Ha ha. And he looks at her, he's like, yeah, but I'm all about these stones, little girl. I'm all about these stones. And he was like, I messed up once. I'm not going to do it again. And it kind of reminded me of like a little kid, like a little child, just, waiting, just like not wanting, a little spanking, from their mom and dad. Just pointing at him, like I said, just pointing at him, just laughing in his face, haha, you can't do this. Grabs her arm, you can just see in his face, he's like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Boom, like just freaking just, hauls her across the universe, if you will. Throws her off this cliff. I mean, it was like, he like looks down, and he's just like, man, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did that. But I have a purpose. To me, the purpose really doesn't really work out that well, but he had a purpose. And it's one of those things where even for me, I love DC, the DC comics and the DC movies, the DC cinematic universe. But some of their villains just want to kill just to kill. And you kind of want to sit them down, like I said, like, why do you want to do this? But after that moment, I was like, okay, he has a purpose. There is a purpose. He's sacrificing his loved ones. He's sacrificing the people that he loves. He's sacrificing not his own blood, but, kind of like raised her, to be his own. And he just threw his daughter off the cliff, and you're just like, wow, like, you did that? Like, whoa, you know what I mean? So Thanos had a plan, and Thanos really, exceeded his plan into what he wanted to do, and he did exactly what he said that he was going to do. Snapped his fingers, brought half a life to existence. The other life, got dusted away. I think the other half that got dusted away was all in the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone is just infinite amount of power and everything, and that's where you get that scene where after he does snap his fingers, you're kind of like in this orangish yellowish type of scenery, where you have little Gamora there, when she was a kid, and I think I'm 100% sure that has to be the Soul Stone. Not maybe that like everybody that just got dusted away, just probably just saying like all that power from all the other stones plus the Soul Stone. I think the Soul Stone and the Time Stone are the most powerful ones. Yeah, you do have the space and power and stuff like that, but those ones create like a significant amount of energy and just in the comics, and stuff like that. But that's where he kind of like has like a little out of body experience, that like he snaps his fingers, but he's looking at his hand, but the glove isn't there, the gauntlet isn't there. Sees little Gamora, and he's like, daughter, and she's like, yeah, did you do it? And he's like, yeah, I did. And then she, cuts back to her, and she's like, what did it cost? And he's like, everything, everything. He lost so much. He lost her, his family, his species, his henchmen. You know what I mean? He lost everything to get to this point, and that's why I gotta give Josh Brolin really good props for doing that, and for bringing that type of emotion. And he was emoting, like he was like really emoting. Like sometimes, like when you see villains just in like in mocaps, and you're being like CGI, it's like, okay, I'll say these one liners or these lines, pick up my paycheck the next day, and then we're done. And then the VFX, they'll do what they want to do, whatever. But you can tell that Josh Brolin was actually just really driven, really driven into this role, and that's, like I said,